What if the thing that's exhausting you isn't your job? What if it isn't your responsibilities? What if it isn't even your circumstances? What if it's your mind? Have you ever noticed how difficult it is to simply sit in silence? No phone, no music, no distractions, just you and your thoughts. For many people, that silence becomes uncomfortable almost immediately. Because the moment everything becomes quiet, the mind becomes loud. It starts replaying conversations, revisiting mistakes, imagining future problems, creating endless scenarios, searching for answers, searching for certainty, searching for control. And the strange thing is that most of this thinking feels productive. It feels responsible, it feels necessary, but often, it isn't helping. It's simply keeping us trapped. Many people spend years believing that if they think long enough, they will eventually find peace. But the opposite often happens. The more they think, the further peace seems to move away. Because some questions do not create clarity. They create more questions. Some thoughts do not solve problems. They create new fears. And some minds become so busy searching for certainty that they never experience the present moment. Life continues moving forward, but their attention remains trapped inside their own head. Always analyzing, always preparing, always worrying, always thinking, and eventually, the mind becomes a place where rest no longer exists. Not because life is impossible, but because thinking never stops. The mind rarely keeps thinking for no reason. Behind most overthinking is a desire that seems completely understandable. The desire to feel safe, to avoid mistakes, to prevent disappointment, to protect ourselves from pain. Somewhere along the way, many people learn a quiet lesson. If I think about everything carefully enough, nothing bad will happen. So they begin analyzing every decision, every conversation, every possibility, every outcome. At first, it feels useful. Thinking creates the illusion of control. The more possibilities we examine, the safer we feel. Or at least, that's what we tell ourselves. But life doesn't work that way. Because no amount of thinking can remove uncertainty from the future. No amount of worrying can guarantee a perfect outcome. And no amount of mental preparation can eliminate every risk. Yet the mind keeps trying. Again and again, day after day, year after year. Imagine carrying an umbrella every day because it might rain. That makes sense. Now imagine carrying 10 umbrellas because you're afraid one won't be enough. Eventually, the protection becomes heavier than the storm itself. That is what overthinking often becomes. An attempt to avoid discomfort that creates even more discomfort. The mind begins solving problems that don't exist. Preparing for conversations that never happen. Defending against dangers that may never arrive. And slowly, without realizing it, people stop living in reality. They start living in possibilities. The present moment becomes less important than the future they keep imagining. A quiet evening becomes another opportunity to worry. A peaceful morning becomes another chance to plan. A simple decision becomes a complicated battle inside the mind. And the tragedy is that most people don't even realize it's happening. They simply believe they are being responsible, careful, prepared. But there is a difference between awareness and obsession. Between preparation and fear. Between wisdom and endless analysis. And many minds cross that line without ever noticing. Not because they are weak. Not because they are broken. But because they have spent so long trying to control life that they have forgotten how to trust it. One of the most painful things about overthinking is that it steals moments you can never get back. Not because something terrible happens. But because nothing truly happens at all. You are physically present, but mentally somewhere else. A friend is talking to you. Yet part of your attention is replaying a mistake from last week. Your family is sitting beside you. Yet your mind is already worrying about next month. You are watching the sunset. But instead of experiencing it, you are analyzing your life. And little by little, life begins to pass by unnoticed. The mind becomes so focused on understanding everything that it forgets to experience anything. Overthinking often disguises itself as intelligence. It feels like you're working on something important. But many times, you're simply trapped in a loop. The same questions, the same fears, the same scenarios, repeating over and over again. And every cycle consumes energy. Mental energy, emotional energy, even physical energy. This is why many people feel exhausted after a day of doing very little. Their body may have rested, but their mind has been running for hours. The brain was never meant to operate at maximum speed all day. Just like a car engine, it eventually overheats. And when it does, something interesting happens. The world starts losing its color. Simple pleasures no longer feel enjoyable. Small achievements no longer feel satisfying. Moments that once brought happiness begin to feel empty. Not because life became worse, but because the mind became too busy to notice what was good. Many people spend years waiting for peace to arrive. They tell themselves, "I'll relax when this problem is solved. I'll feel better when everything is under control. I'll be happy when I finally have certainty." But certainty rarely arrives. Life continues changing. New challenges appear. New questions emerge. And the finish line keeps moving further away. The mind says, "Just solve one more thing." But there is always one more thing. One more concern. One more possibility. One more fear. And before they realize it, they have spent years preparing to live instead of actually living. The saddest part is that overthinking doesn't only steal peace. It steals presence. And presence is where life happens. Not yesterday. Not tomorrow. Not inside endless mental conversations. Right here. Right now. In the moment that most overthinkers are too distracted to see. At some point, a person must ask a difficult question. Not, "How do I think more clearly?" but, "Why am I afraid to stop thinking?" Because for many people, silence feels dangerous. If they stop thinking, they fear they will become careless. If they stop worrying, they fear something will go wrong. If they stop planning, they fear they will lose control. So they keep the mind busy. Not because it helps, but because it feels safer than letting go. Yet there is a hidden truth that many people eventually discover. The mind does not become peaceful when every question is answered. The mind becomes peaceful when it no longer needs every answer. There is a difference. A very important difference. One path chases certainty, the other learns acceptance. And acceptance is something most overthinkers struggle with. Because acceptance sounds passive. It sounds like giving up. It sounds like surrender. But real acceptance is not weakness. It is wisdom. It is recognizing that some things can be influenced, while others cannot. It is understanding that life has always contained uncertainty. And always will. Think about the sky. You can check the weather forecast. You can carry an umbrella. You can prepare. But you cannot control the rain. At some point, preparation ends. And trust begins. Life works the same way. There are decisions to make. Responsibilities to handle. Problems to solve. But there is also a point where thinking stops being useful. A point where more analysis only creates more anxiety. A point where the mind keeps searching, not because the answer is missing, but because certainty is impossible. Many people never notice this line. So they continue searching, long after the search has become harmful. Long after the answer would have made little difference. Long after peace was available. Not on the other side of another thought, but on the other side of letting that thought go. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is not to find the answer. It is to stop demanding one. To allow a question to remain unanswered. To allow uncertainty to exist. To allow life to be imperfect. Because peace does not require certainty. It requires trust. And trust begins the moment we stop treating every unknown as a threat. The moment we stop fighting reality. The moment we stop believing that our minds must carry the entire weight of the future. That is where freedom begins. Not when everything is figured out. But when we finally realize that not everything needs to be. Perhaps the goal was never to silence the mind. Because the mind was designed to think. Just as the heart was designed to beat. And the lungs were designed to breathe. The problem is not that thoughts exist. The problem is that we believe every thought deserves our attention. Imagine sitting beside a river. Leaves are floating on the water. Some move quickly. Some move slowly. Some disappear around the bend. Now imagine trying to stop every leaf. Trying to inspect every leaf. Trying to understand where every leaf came from and where it is going. You would spend the entire day exhausted. Yet this is exactly how many people treat their thoughts. Every worry must be analyzed. Every fear must be investigated. Every possibility must be explored. And so the mind never rests. Not because there are too many thoughts, but because there is too much attachment to them. One of the most liberating realizations in life is understanding that a thought is not a command. A thought is not a prediction. A thought is not reality. It is simply a mental event passing through awareness. Some thoughts are useful, some are not. Some deserve action, some deserve nothing at all. Yet many people have spent years treating every thought as equally important. And that habit creates suffering. Because the mind can produce thousands of thoughts each day. Many of them contradictory, many of them irrational, many of them driven by fear rather than truth. If you listen to all of them, you will never find direction. You will only find noise. This is why peace often begins with observation, not control. Observation, the ability to notice a thought without immediately following it, to notice fear without feeding it, to notice uncertainty without trying to eliminate it, to notice anxiety without turning it into a story. At first, this feels strange. Because most people have spent years reacting automatically. A thought appears, they follow it. Another thought appears, they follow that one too. Hour after hour, day after day, but slowly, something changes. A small space begins to appear. A space between you and your thoughts. And inside that space, there is freedom. Because for the first time, you realize that you are not every thought that passes through your mind. You are the awareness that notices them. And awareness is far calmer than the storm it observes. Perhaps peace is not found by winning the battle inside your head. Perhaps peace appears when you stop turning every thought into a battle. When you allow the mind to do what minds naturally do. Think, and then let the thought pass. Just as the river carries away every leaf. Without effort, without struggle, without resistance. Maybe the reason your mind feels so tired is not because you have too many problems. Maybe it is because you have been carrying too many thoughts. For too long. Thoughts about the future. Thoughts about the past. Thoughts about what could go wrong. Thoughts about what should have happened. Thoughts about things you cannot change. And thoughts about things that have not even happened yet. Perhaps the mind was never meant to carry all of that at once. Perhaps that is why you feel exhausted. Not because life is asking too much from you, but because your mind is asking too much from itself. For years, you may have believed that peace was waiting somewhere ahead. Beyond the next answer, beyond the next solution, beyond the next breakthrough. But what if peace has been available all along? Not in the future, not after every problem disappears, not after every uncertainty is resolved, but here, in this moment, in the simple act of allowing life to be what it is. Not perfect, not predictable, not fully understood, just life. There will always be questions. There will always be unknowns. There will always be things beyond your control. And that is not a mistake. That is part of being human. You do not need to carry the entire future tonight. You do not need to solve every possibility before you go to sleep. You do not need to prepare for every version of tomorrow. For this moment, you can simply be here. Breathing, listening, existing. And perhaps that is enough. Perhaps peace begins the moment you stop demanding certainty from a world that has never promised it. The moment you stop chasing every thought. The moment you stop turning every question into a burden. The moment you trust yourself to handle life as it comes. One day at a time. One moment at a time. One breath at a time. So if your mind never seems to stop thinking, do not fight it. Do not hate it. Do not judge yourself for it. Simply notice it. And then gently return to this moment. Again, and again, and again. Because peace is not something you find once. It is something you return to. The quiet strength. Find strength within. Live in peace.